Hi, I'm Balin, and welcome to my new mini organic baking series. Today we will be making some pumpkin muffins. Really excited. Um, it's kind of a weird place to start, but this recipe means a lot to me because as a child, when we were first eating organic and starting to eat organic, my mom wouldn't let me make anything that wasn't organic. Um, and I was really mad about it because I'd heard that organic food just wasn't good, and so I was really biased unnecessarily. Um, and one day I really wanted to bake something, and my mom wouldn't let me unless it was organic. So I did, mostly out of spite, but it actually turned out to be one of the best recipes that I've ever had, and it totally helped change my mind that organic food was bad, and I'm hoping that I can change some of your guys' minds about it. So, let's get started. I will list the ingredients in the description down below along with their prices, but I'm also just going to read them out here because it's easy. You will need all-purpose flour, sugar, brown sugar, baking soda, salt, cinnamon, ground cloves, nutmeg, 2 eggs, a 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree, although if you don't have that, just about 2 cups of pumpkin is necessarily the same thing, coconut oil, and vanilla extract, of course. This recipe will make 12 muffins, and it takes about 45 minutes to make. Okay, so now that we've got our ingredients, time to actually start the recipe. You're going to want to preheat your oven to 375. Give me a second to do that. Next, you are going to mix together your dry ingredients in a small bowl. This bowl will hold about 8 cups. It says a medium bowl, but there's really not that much in dry ingredients. It looks a little daunting on paper, but it's really not as hard as it makes it seem. So give me a second to do that, and I will show you the final image of all of our dry ingredients together. Hi! Okay, so we now have our dry mix, which you will notice in the pictures provided. It's kind of darker and more brown. This is due to the fact that we have cinnamon and ground cloves and nutmeg, which are darker spices. Another thing is my family doesn't use white sugar. We want to be as healthy as possible, and while sugar is sugar, we still try to get the best that we can. So we use cane sugar, which is naturally a tan color. It's the same as sugar, tastes just the same, just a little bit better for you. So now that we have our dry ingredients, we're going to set that to the side, and now we have to move on to our wet ingredients, which is our pumpkin, our coconut oil, and our vanilla and eggs. A forewarning, coconut oil does have a really low melting temperature, which is good for melting it, but it also means that it can harden at lower temperatures as well. So a word of advice that I've learned making this recipe is that if you're going to use pumpkin, especially pumpkin in a can, I would set it out on the counter for maybe an hour or two, get it kind of room temperature. It won't do anything really to your pumpkin, but if you use cold pumpkin, it will cause your melted coconut oil to harden, which isn't necessarily a problem, but it makes little chunks of coconut oil, which makes your batter just more lumpy, and it makes your muffins thicker. Which if you like that, that's cool. If you don't mind it, just a word of advice for those who want to do it as strict as possible. So we're going to mix our wet ingredients. and then we'll show you the end result of that, and we will be right back. Okay, so now that we have our wet ingredients, we are now gonna have to mix the two, and you can either have someone help you or do it one-handed, or do what I'm doing and use a KitchenAid. But you're gonna mix your wet ingredients while slightly pouring in small portions of your dry mix to try and evenly incorporate it. It takes a little bit longer instead of just dumping it in, but not too much longer, and it's really not that hard. You could use a whisk, but my family, using the KitchenAid and one of its attachments, we use something that's kind of like a paddle. Give me a second. We use this thing. It's called a batter paddle. It works really well, and it's much easier to use in something like this instead of the whisk. I'm sure you could use a whisk, and I'm sure it's a very plausible option, but that's just how my family does it. So we're going to mix these together, and I'll show you the end product of that, and then we will put them in the pan. Okay, so your batter should look like mine, not too thick, not too watery, of course. These come out pretty even every single time that I've made them, so if you follow this recipe, it should be just fine. You're going to use your regular muffin pan, because this will make 12 muffins, of course. You can use liners if that is what you prefer. We just use olive oil and just brush around some olive oil around the little tins. I've never had a problem with that. They always come out very nicely. They don't break apart ever. So if you follow the recipe like this, and it should come out just fine. To make these more uniform, we use an ice cream scoop. It's a trick I learned in a middle school cooking class, but it actually works really nicely instead of just pouring them into the pan and hoping you have enough batter for each one. Of course, you will have extra batter if you just use one of these in each, and then you kind of just have to hope that they're all even. This will fill up your tins most of the way, so don't worry about that. These are pretty big size muffins. Not a Costco muffin, of course, but still pretty good size, very filling. So we're gonna put these into the pan, and I'll show you the after product of that, and then into the oven we go. Okay, so now we have our muffin pan in the oven. Yours will probably look as full as mine. I wouldn't worry about it spilling over too much. None of the muffins I've ever made using this recipe have really spilled over like anything crazy. If you're really worried about it, you can of course put like a baking mat under your pan. We're going to be cooking these at 375, like I said in the beginning. And for about 20 minutes, it'll probably take maybe 2 or 3 minutes more than that. But it really shouldn't go over that by very much. Unless you have a different oven. I would say check it at 20 for sure, or more if you know that your oven runs hot. And then afterwards, you're just gonna take them out, put them on a cooling rack, and boom, you have muffins. So I will wait my 20 minutes, and when it is ready, I will take a picture for you guys, and I'll enjoy my first bite with you guys. Okay, so our muffins are done. This is my little muffin. He's very cute. He has butter on him. Something that my family does, and you guys are totally free to steal this because I think it deserves to be shared, is my family will melt a small bowl of butter, and we'll have a small bowl of cinnamon sugar, and we'll dip the tops of the muffins in the butter and then in the cinnamon sugar, and just eat them like that. And they're really good it's a lot of sugar, and it was something we do as a treat as kids. We don't do it as much anymore, but it's really good on these because these already have cinnamon in them. So if you want to do that, totally up to you. Here's the first bite. Oh yeah, it's like really good. I'm pretty light and fluffy, which is really good, obviously. If you don't want to eat these with butter, don't have to. They're totally good on their own. I've taken just like a plain muffin to school and given them out, and people acted like it was Christmas Day. So they're really good. I hope you enjoy.